Welcome to the last stakeholder meeting for the Waterfront Eureka Plan. I'm really excited to have you here and get your firsthand knowledge of the waterfront and help develop the plan to be the best thing for your good that it can be. And I should say I'm Rose Newberry from Dudek. From the consultant side, I'm the project manager on this project, and it's really near and dear to my heart. So today I'm going to talk about the purpose of both the plan and the meeting, the plan area, kind of what the role of a specific plan is and why we're using it in the waterfront. We're not your priorities for the waterfront, and then we'll do a SWOT analysis, and then talk about outreach in the project outline. We've also been using these meetings to kind of help a map of the project area and talk through improvements. So a little bit of talking, but mostly it's going to be an interactive session. So our purpose. So the plan's purpose is to redevelop the waterfront, really focused on those vacant, underutilized sites that are likely to redevelop in the next 20 years. And the dual purpose is to plan for at least 115 new housing units. So today, again, I have the plan area, so plan, and most importantly, and for the most meeting, hear from you. To kind of remind everyone, this is the plan area. There's 3 districts in it, and these districts were developed as part of the 2040 general plan process. This is the commercial bayfront, which is waterfront and First Street Bayward, Old Town from B to J, and Library from J to R. Old Town, I feel like we have a good feel for where that is. The historic buildings and most of the businesses are in Old Town, and the Library District is more residential. It has, of course, the Humboldt County Library, as well as the Carson Mansions in the Library District. So plan. One of the most important things the plan is going to do is implement the general plan. It's both a policy in the general plan to adopt the plan, but it also provides guidelines for development that are consistent with the general plan. It also provides CEQA streamlining so that developments can go forward faster for less money because they won't have to do own or CEQA on their developments. And then lastly, and this is coupled with CEQA, is really straightforward development standards that are being consistent with both the general plan, like it is in the Inland Code, and the local coastal plan, which the city is currently updating. So it shouldn't be confusing to developers how to be consistent with the Coastal Act as well as the general plan. And at the end, we're hoping the waterfront will look something like this. So next, I'm going to talk about your priorities and what you think is the most important thing to address in the plan area. We have some ideas of what those could be and what we've heard previously, but we're really hoping to hear any ideas from you about what you think is the most important in the plan area. This could be housing options, preparing for silver rise, or improving the streetscape and the vibrancy of people dining on the street, kids playing, still being out in public. So I'll kind of turn it over to the participants to introduce themselves and talk about their priorities.
This is Kristen Kenyon. I'm a principal planner with the City of Eureka. Sue, not to put you on the spot, but I think you're our only participant today. So love to hear from you.
Okay, I didn't even know you guys would have been off the hook if I hadn't showed up. I didn't think I'd be able to make the meeting, so I just signed up 10 minutes ago. So
well, welcome. Thank you for coming.
Okay, and I missed yesterday. That's why I'm here today. I guess, I mean, those things, all the things mentioned, I think are all important to me to some extent. I think that I know that our community in general has a need for more housing, and in Eureka, and I think that having that in our area down around Old Town and the waterfront and library is good for the vibrancy of our community and for my business specifically. I do think that, I mean, obviously the environment, sea level rise is important. I like the idea of vibrancy of the streetscape. I think that means different things to different people. I am concerned when that always means closing the streets in Old Town for events. Typically, closed streets do not benefit my business and a lot of other storefronts as well. People turn down into our area and they see the streets blocked. And if they didn't really need something, which most times are not. Clothing isn't necessarily a need, it's a want. They turn away and they report that to me later. Oh, I was going to come down here, but I didn't. I do think that there are things that could improve our streetscape, even just landscaping and keeping things looking better. A lot of the times there's weeds all over the place, there's trash all over the place. And it's an ongoing battle with personnel. I get it. I try to keep the front of my storefront swept and clean, but it can be sort of a mess in a lot of places. And I think that contributes to people not feeling as comfortable being in the area. And I think parking, I think that we need more signage directing people to parking. There are those placards that are out right now. I don't know that they're necessarily in the best locations for directing people to the parking at D and First Street. And I think that maybe even at the entrance to that parking area, if that continues to be an open lot, there needs to be some indication like this is parking for the public. I mean, it's sort of there, but it's not really clear to a lot of people. I think they see that, dirt lot and it doesn't seem particularly official to folks. And so, I know that I park there. I have some parking behind my store, but I park there when we have more than a couple of employees here or for different things if we're going on. And there aren't typically that many people parked there. And probably more people should be taking advantage of that if they work or live in the Old Town area, so as to reduce the congestion on parking down here. I believe there's not a parking problem in Eureka. I think there's a parking perception problem. People believe there is no parking available, and they tell me that all the time, and that's ridiculous. You can always park within 2 to 3 blocks of my store. They're more than willing to park at the hinterlands of the mall and walk back and forth in the whole thing, but if they can't park in the 3 spots on my block, there's somehow an issue with parking. And so I think that a lot of what the city needs to focus on is making parking more obvious and readily noticeable to people. I go to a number of other communities for conferences and other things, even just like downtown San Mateo has lots of big P parking signs with arrows to direct people to where things are when they're on main drags. So in regards to the parking, I think that that's one of the main things that I think is the issue, and having some better defined, spaces or directions for people. And that was just a lot of stuff thrown at you, and I can't remember the original question. So those are off the top of my head what I'm thinking about in relationship to these things.
That was so much great feedback. Thank you, Sue.
Yeah. Sorry about my door chime here. So I guess that what I missed, not having been at the other meetings or what's been discussed. I guess I'm sort of just curious about any, what are some of the ideas on the table, or what's, being planned or thought about in regards to these things. I mean, I'm obviously most invested in Old Town and adjacent waterfront. The library district's a little bit further from me, and so it doesn't have as much immediate impact on my daily life, but I definitely agree that that area could benefit from some more activity or something that makes it more attractive. I go to the library a lot, but it's otherwise, not an area that I go into very often, and it should be. I mean, we've got the waterfront down there with the park and things like that. It would be nice if there was some more activity.
I also saw people have joined us since we started. So if you are attending via Zoom, I'm promoting you to panelists. So you'll get a pop-up and then you can speak as needed.
And to your point about, hi, I'm Sarah West, I'm with Economic Development at the city. To your point about needing to make the parking we have more visible, I just wanted to let you know and acknowledge that that's something that staff is actively working on at the moment. So that's a piece that we are working on tackling in the very immediate future.
I also understand there's some idea of putting bollards in the middle of the street to be able to have closures more readily, I guess, easily happen and more smoothly. And I think that I'm not necessarily, like I said, I'm not a fan of street closures, but I am to a limited, to an extent. I mean, there's events that we have all the time, the 4th of July, all these types of things that need some type of system. And I think that having bollards in a lot of locations would be helpful. I mean, because those concrete barriers aren't necessarily particularly beautiful, and they're taking up parking space and not particularly contributing to the beauty of the city in between. So I'd be curious to know where there is some thought on bollards being installed in the future.
I know that's a desire of Public Works, and we're working on it, but I don't have more details on it because our Public Works director is the one who's working on that. I don't know if Economic Development's heard any progress on that effort.
Only very briefly that progress has been made, but I think Brian Gerving would be the one to really give the scoop.
So Brian Gerving actually reported to Main Street a couple of weeks ago that the bollards are they're ordered, or I think that they have been ordered and they should be here hopefully by end of fall or beginning of winter. So those concrete barriers, they're just a temporary fix until we get those bollards installed. So it should be hopefully by the end of the year they'll be in service, I believe.
It'd be nice to even just have somebody send out a map of where those are planning to be located. I haven't seen anything like that actually states where these are going to be installed, which intersections are going to be involved. So that'd be nice if they do have that.
Yeah, when I get that information, I'll send that out. I don't know where they're going exactly either at this point.
And to your question about the plans for the Bayfront, and it's definitely a huge part of the plan to make that more vibrant area. But there is definitely debate in the public comment we're getting about sea level rise and whether we should stick to more temporary stuff or whether we should invest in, extending Old Town down there with mixed use buildings like we used to have. So that's definitely an open question at this point.
I mean, it's certainly a challenge because just on the other side of Old Town from the waterfront, we have downtown, which isn't exactly thriving up the 4th and 5th Street corridors. There's a lot of vacancies and things like that. So, it's hard to know, do we need more buildings for different things like that? Or is it just that the traffic there is an issue for those places being successful? I don't know. It's sort of, I can understand why it's a challenging consideration.
Yeah, we also have in our, I think it's either in our general plan or in our housing element, a call to do a specific plan for our downtown area. And we definitely are struggling with vacancies, especially along the highway corridor. And that's one of the hardest planning challenges in Eureka, is dealing with the highway going through the city. I mean, it's also an opportunity, but.
Well, and I think maybe it's one of those things about, I know that we have signs on corners that, sort of, but I don't know if they could need to be updated, if they need to be more obvious what's going on. I mean, directing people. I mean, plenty of people tell me, oh, they had no idea. They just happened to turn off of, they think that that's what Eureka is Broadway and 4th and 5th Street, and somehow miss the information about the Old Town and the waterfront to begin with. So I don't know, maybe we need to revisit what that signage is, or how we get people to see what's really the most attractive about our city.
And to that point, there has been some new wayfinding. That big Eureka map was part of that. And economic development is also working on a beautification plan that will include more discussion about wayfinding and signage, because that's something that we definitely have on our radar in terms of how do we have this great asset of the 101 going through town, and how do we peel folks off to come stop, visit, shop, all that good stuff.
And not that I want to drive people away from Old Town or anything like that, but other than people stopping in at the visitor center on the corner, there's not really information to get people to the zoo and the park. I mean, those are two beautiful things in our town, and you could spend your whole day in Old Town in this area and not even know those things existed. And I don't know what so maybe that's just additional signage somewhere along the route as well. That would direct people, especially now with the skywalk and all those different things that, are really attractive to people.
Absolutely.
Hey, Rose, do you want to go to the next slide and work through the exercise?
All right, our next exercise is a SWOT analysis. So we're, and understanding priorities, also want to understand what's unique and what's happening in Eureka so that we can effectively address those things. So we kind of broke it down into these 4 categories, things that are helpful, things that are harmful, and then if those things are internal or external. So I have 4 examples, and I'll share my screen. We kind of brainstorm together on a virtual whiteboard. So I thought was helpful and both internal was all the historic buildings in the planning area. I think it is really remarkable how beautiful Old Town is, especially. It's one of my first memories of the area. It just looked very magical. And I think that's just such an important part of this area. And it really draws people and keeps them around. Another helpful but external is Humboldt State becoming Cal Poly Humboldt. But they're going to double in enrollment. There's going to be a lot more state money coming out, or people coming in. So there's a huge opportunity there. But unlike the historic buildings, we don't really have control over what Cal Poly Humboldt does. I think that's what's harmful but internal was the current LCP standards. The LCP was adopted in 1997 and doesn't allow for as much development as the general plan does. And so updating those part of this process would let larger buildings, newer buildings with be built more easily, bring residents to the area and new development. And lastly, and we all know this.
Just clarify what LCP stands for. It's our local coastal program, which is our general plan and zoning that's certified by the Coastal Commission. And so even though we did this whole update to our general plan and redid our zoning, revamped our whole zoning code, it's not been certified by the Coastal Commission. So it doesn't apply in the coastal zone. Our old regulations, which we call the LCP, are what apply. And they have some things that really prohibit housing, like even on the second floor, housing has to get a conditional use permit. And also there's just other really restrictive standards that we currently have that are holding back development in some ways.
I think that's super helpful. I think additionally, the thing to note here with the coastal program is that Coastal Commission does have a big say and has to approve what's happening here, and they have their own goals and vision, including being very visitor serving, having sea level rise addressed in a certain way. That's definitely something we're always keeping top of mind. All right, so I'm going to switch my share and we're going to go to a blank one of these and talk about what we think that the external and internal factors affecting the planning area are. I think we probably jot some down, like wayfinding that we've heard already. So just give me 1 second. All right.
So where would we put better wayfinding? Or I guess it's just currently we don't have good wayfinding.
Yeah, I think a lack of wayfinding is a weakness.
And good like utilization of our parking management.
Mm-hmm. And the goal, of course, of this is to make all of the weaknesses strengths and then address the threats.
So Sue, do you have any thoughts on this? Like strengths we should be highlighting or
right. One thing I try to figure out is how to have people directed to things. And I guess that's wayfinding again. I mean, there's wayfinding from the roads, the main roads and things, but I do think that, I have people just stop in my storefront all the time to ask me where they should go to eat. And I'm happy to make suggestions, but having some, and I mean, that's a hard thing because how much signage do you make about that? Because then when things open and close, that's problematic as well. I don't know that we could have anything so specific as like a mall directory or something like that, but it would be nice, even if maybe what we need is for local businesses to be able to hand out an easy resource for people to hand out to people when they came in from out of the area. I have a lot of tourists come in and they ask me a lot of questions. And if I had a nice handy map, I could provide them that had different types of businesses and recreation opportunities and restaurants on it, that would be helpful. I don't know that that's anything on this idea. I do think that we, as far as harmful, and I guess I don't know if it's internal or external, is our homeless situation. I mean, you can't mention being in this area without people bringing up the people that are hanging out. I mean, I find that it's sort of the odd thing about, I own a business here, I'm here all the time, and it doesn't bother me. It only bothers me as much as because it bothers my customers and the perception of people coming down here. So it's definitely an issue. I mean, I think that helpful things, I mean, we do have the natural beauty. I mean, even though there's not a lot of utilization of it, I mean, it's a little bit better. Even the boardwalk and the waterfront, which when I moved here, 25 years ago, we didn't have that real area, the C Street Plaza or the Mattakit Plaza. I think that those places are helpful. I mean, the gazebo area for as much. I mean, so we have open spaces for things to be happening and people just to enjoy being in the beauty that we have. And we already have discussed the historic building, the nature of those things. And I don't know, I'm trying to think of what else.
I think what I kind of heard underneath what you were saying was that tourism is a huge opportunity, that visitors are really bringing in money to the area.
Yes, that's definitely true. And yeah, and I think that I'm not seeing quite as much this year as I did last year, because I think travel opportunities are opening up after COVID, but it definitely still is. Of course, it's mostly concentrated during the summertime. A little bit of spillover on the ends, but I mean, I think that other things that I'm seeing as being external factors that are going to be helpful are the jobs created by the fish farming thing that's going to be happening, the wind farm out to sea, the increased broadband. And there seem to be possibilities and opportunities for our community to grow based on these things, which will create a more steady and stable economy and environment versus the more, the tourism one, which is, coming and going all the time. So I think that those additional possibilities of jobs and things happening around that will definitely be good. It's going to exacerbate our housing situation even further. So needing to have more opportunities for housing, I think, are definitely important because of that.
Yeah, I think this is fantastic. I think I can pop up, yeah, housing supply is a threat. And then we can probably move on and look at the map a little bit and look at maybe some specific recommendations you have for the project area.
Okay.
Can I switch over again? There we go. There's the map.
So Sue, can I ask where your business is?
Yeah, I'm right near the corner of E and 2nd, right next to Los Bagels. So, yep, right
here.
Across this, yeah, in the building across the street where those the other direction. So across the other side of 2nd Street. So I'm sort of seeing a cursor, but yes.
So one question I have for you is another thing that we're really debating and struggling with is, you know, right now we have it that first floors are really focused on visitor serving uses. And I know we're wondering if we should be adding flexibility to that and allowing more just neighborhood serving stuff and office uses on the first floor, just everywhere, or maybe just like concentrating the visitor serving area more. And I'm just curious if you have any thoughts on that, given your location. It gets less visitor serving the further down 2nd Street you go from where you are. You're kind of still in the central hub there of visitor serving.
Right. Yeah, I think it does. I mean, it does change things. I mean, things have expanded a little bit in the time that I've been here because of the development of the Vance Hotel, which was still closed when I moved here. But I mean, right now there's already naturally occurring barriers, like as you head down that way past F Street, and then you have the state, or there's a state building there that's on the left-hand side, 2nd and F.
Yep, that's the state.
So that's sort of a dead end. That sort of ends our, you know, commercial district there. A few places across the street from that managed to make it. I do think that it, you know, having to define, I do see when there are businesses. I mean, it's sort of nice to me that across the corner from me, the building that was, you know, that ugly concrete block building that just got torn down, that wasn't really being utilized, has plans for development for multiple stories and multi-uses. Before, there was one ground floor business and the other one was like maybe computer maintenance or something. And so that was a whole thing right in the middle of everything that sort of stopped flow with that. I mean, I do think that those things are important. Maybe what has to be defined is like, well, what area are we focusing on? You know, either food service or retail or, you know, front end serving type of things for visitors and for people down in the community, you know, versus offices. I mean, there'll be some here and there. There's, you know, realtors who have storefronts now down here, and there are, you know, things like that. But I do think that within a specific commercial district, I think it is better to have things that are, you know, more retail and food service and or events. I mean, having the visitor center here is obviously good. I'm looking forward to the cultural center in the old Restoration Hardware building opening someday. I was hoping it would be open by now. But, you know, those things, I think in order to make a commercial district successful, I mean, people have to be wanting to walk through the area, and there has to be something moving them along to do that. So I can see why that would be, but I don't think that would be the same thing. I mean, even when I look at, First Street, most of those built things there are not likely, immediate service to people, more offices, things like that. So, I mean, I don't know the answer. I just know that I prefer in my district, at one period of time, when the wine cellar was closed next to me, and then the building has been closed forever at the corner by the gazebo, just having me and Los Bagels right here on this one end of the block. I want more activity during my daylight hours when we're open to be happening on my block to make people move back and forth that way. So I do think that it's important that we have those things filled by places people visit.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sue, for all your thoughtful feedback. I wish we had more people for you to bounce ideas off of.
Sorry. I have lots of opinions. That's something I can always be counted on. It's up to y'all to come up with the solutions. So that's the harder part. Everybody has plenty of opinions, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't want to take too much of your time, but if there's anything else that you see that comes up looking at this map, let us know. And you can always call us or email us with additional thoughts once you've thought about it more.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I have too much more really. I'm curious to see what feedback has happened from other sessions as well. I remember it was years ago, obviously now we had a whole series of, I guess what I'm wanting to know is how does this move forward? I remember we had a really great session at the Wharfinger years ago with pitch by I don't know if I can't remember if it was the development folks, or it seems so long ago, I can't even remember who the people were that led it, but it was a whole meeting. Then we divided into different groups around the thing, and people could give feedback and write things on charts. And there was a lot of discussion, and it was very interesting, but I feel like it's sort of, I never necessarily knew as much what came about after that. So
yeah, I think that might have been part of the development of the general plan and zoning code, and so we are trying to implement those by getting it all done and certified by the Coastal Commission. So we have all that information from those old meetings, and we want to carry that forward now. So this is, I guess, a continuation of that. I know it seems like people keep saying haven't we already done this? We're well, yeah.
Well, a lot has happened since then, I mean, it's sort of everything got put on hold for a while in everybody's lives. So it's, just getting it back together. I can understand the loss of momentum.
And Len, I see your hand raised. I'm going to go back to the map. I was trying to pull up the old data. But yeah, Len, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I was going to say I was involved in that process too, Sue, and it was Rob Holman that kind of spearheaded it. That's one of the things that's frustrating is you do all of these meetings and everybody comes up with these great plans and ideas, and then there's never any follow through. There's never any communication with what the consensus was, or even what you just said now, these are part of the general plan and you're trying to move it through with the Coastal Commission. It would be nice if you could communicate that, to the businesses and property owners down there, because you give the perception that we do all of this and then it just gets stuck on shelf 85 and nobody ever looks at it again. So if you could have better communication either through Main Street or, the emails that you're getting from these sessions, and say, hey, here's what's in the works. This is what we're working on. It lets people know that you're trying to move things forward and makes you feel that it's not a waste of your time to take part in all of these meetings and things, which I think are great. I'm always disappointed that more people don't join in. And then the ones that don't join in, of course, are the first ones to gripe about what decisions were made. So I don't know how you get more people involved. Everybody's busy. I think a lot of the perception is people have done this before, and we had great turnouts for the ones that we did 6 or 7 years ago, and nothing came about of it. There was never even a review of what the consensus were. And so I think people just get turned off to it. And they're like, why waste my time? There's never any follow through, and I never see or hear anything more about it.
I totally hear you, Lynn. And I think we need to do a better job of communicating how this is an extension of what was done back then. And
yeah, this is the first I've heard that said.
Yeah. And the stuff that got done back then, it did get incorporated into our 2040 general plan and our inland code. And it just hasn't been implemented in the coastal zone yet.
But that was never communicated to anybody. I don't ever remember hearing anything of that. I know we got an email from Rob after those sessions at the Wharfinger, and actually we did one at the Eagle House. That was another one that we did a whole evening thing there when we broke up into different groups with different categories and topics, and we got a thank you email for participating, and that was it. There was no summary. There was no, communication with, here's what happened, here's what we, think we can do, here's what we, isn't available. And I don't think people understand that a lot of this has to go through the Coastal Commission. And I think that's something you need to really communicate to the district down there in Old Town, that the city, people just can't suggest, something and the city say, okay, great idea, next week it starts. It's this long, involved process to get it approved. And again, it goes to education.
Yeah.
We need to educate our business owners, and we need to educate the general public about the process.
Yeah, I get that. And I totally think it's the best practice to, share out what we heard and then explain how what we heard was used to develop what gets developed. And what you're trying, and what you're trying to get developed, because it just seems like everything is stagnant. And yet I know there's a lot of behind the scenes things going on. So like, even maybe if you did a monthly or a quarterly update, here's what's happening with, these breakout sessions, and here's where we are in the process. It might, encourage more people to get involved again. But I think people are just turned off because they give up their time, especially business owners. I'm retired, so I have more flexibility. But business owners give up their time and effort to do this, and then they just feel it's a waste of their time because nothing ever happens and they're never informed. Got it. It's just my opinion.
No, with Lynn, I think that's true. And I think, quarterly would be more than enough. Even just to say, this is progress that we've made. Here's what we're still looking forward to working on. The same thing happened with me. I happen to have, my house is on the, going to be adjacent to the trail that could run from the bay to the zoo, that whole thing. And I was on a couple Zoom meetings during COVID about that and getting through, and I've never heard anything again since being on those meetings.
I know I personally just find it frustrating. I try to be involved, and I try to be active, and I try to talk to my tenants in my building, and get feedback from them. And some of them are active and some of them don't, they don't want to be bothered. And then it's like with everything, the first person to gripe is the person that wasn't involved in the process. It's just like, if you don't be involved and you don't voice your opinion, you don't have a right to gripe.
And a lot of times there is progress made, and it's nice for people that were involved in the process, when people say, oh, nothing's happening with that, to be able to say, if we're informed about what you guys have accomplished and what you've done, we can let people know that something is happening.
Exactly.
Right? I think that we can be advocates for the city and city employees and departments as well. When we know things are taking place, we can let other people who just complain about the inactivity know that there actually is activity.
That's really true. And Amanda's doing a good job, with the Main Street newsletter. That might be one avenue to get, the people in the Old Town district, up to date and informed. But you're absolutely right, Sue. When people say, well, what happened at the meeting? And you tell them all the great ideas that were expressed, and then nobody sees anything. So I think that would be, you have some new methods of communication in place. I just think you need to take advantage of them more and get more information out to people. try to get people more enthusiastic.
Yes, we definitely, as a city, are trying to improve on that. So any advice we would love. Thank you for giving us feedback on that.
So hopefully there'll be a follow-up from all these sessions you're doing now. If it's just kind of, that the Foursquare thing that you did, just even, condensing what you got from the different sessions and sending that out, not to just the people that were involved in the sessions, but everybody in that particular district.
I think that's really good feedback. I think that's a good transition point to our schedule and kind of what this is going to look like moving forward. So you kind of see where we are on our timeline as our outreach timeline. And this is one of our closing events before we start writing the meat of the plan. So we had a workshop in March of 2022. You can watch the video on for our website, waterfronteureka.com. In April, we updated our website with an FAQ. In June, we had another workshop and launched our survey, again, both on our website. Earlier this month, we went to Planning Commission, City Council, and got feedback from both the public and those committees. Right now, we're doing stakeholder interviews. We have actually at least one more council commissions. And then kind of this winter draft plan will be coming out. That draft plan will definitely include a public outreach chapter that will summarize everything we've heard, both from individual events and then thematically what's going on. Once there's a public draft available, people will be able to comment on that public draft, and they'll be doing 4 public meetings to present it, which will have both kind of in-person and hybrid and virtual options to provide more comment once that is available. If you are signed up on our website, you'll get emails when all these things are available and where to find.
See, here's a good starting point right here. I think you should take this graphic and, show it and send it out to everybody and explain what PC and CC sessions are, because not everybody can remember the acronyms, but this shows what you've been doing. And then you can say, there's still more opportunity. If you haven't participated and you have ideas, here's the next opportunity. So this would be a perfect starting point to start educating people.
Yeah, I think that's really good feedback. And here's kind of our overall project schedule. You can see we have some more public meetings coming into the winter. Our plan will be available starting in November. And then lastly, here's the website link. You can always email planning@City-of-Eureka. There's also a comment box on the website and the survey there. And then if anyone did participate in one of these meetings and wants to get involved, they can go to the website, take the survey, and contact myself and city staff directly from that.
Again, that's pertinent information that you could put in, in an email that you send out or the newsletter or whatever. Let people know that there's ample opportunity. If they couldn't make this meeting, they still have ample opportunity to voice their opinion and get their input.
Yeah, and that's right. Yeah, we'll be sending follow-ups to people that weren't able to attend. So we'll make sure to make that really clear.
I don't think it should be just who shouldn't be able to attend. I think it should be, I don't know how many businesses Amanda has on the Main Street, newsletter list, but I think it should be something like that. So you're reaching out to as many businesses and individuals involved in these areas as possible.
I believe all of this, the information about the survey, I believe, would be going out in the citywide newsletter. Which
I've gotten it both. I've gotten one from you, Amanda, and one from the city, because I'm on the city email list now too. So yeah, I've gotten it from both.
Yeah, I think it'll be in the city one again this time. I don't work on that specifically, but I imagine it would be included there again.
And then who does their newsletter or email, who does that reach? Rose, do you know how many businesses that reaches in the Old Town area?
On the city email list?
Yes.
I do not know that offhand.
I think the city newsletter goes to residents. I don't know how they compiled the list. It might be through like water billing when you sign up you submit your email or something. But I think that goes out to over 6,000 at least.
Do you have, Amanda, how many people do you have on your email list for the newsletter and announcements you send out through Main Street?
A couple hundred, about 250, I think. And then the chamber also has a big list.
Right, that's the other one I got was from the chamber.
Yeah.
I think, you know, if you can get that information on all three of those communications, you know, some of it's a crossover, but you're attempting to reach a good segment of the population that, you know, is going to be affected by all of these plans and developments.
I think that's wonderful feedback.
Okay, well, thank you for your time and for having a meeting for just a couple of us. I appreciate your time and your listening. I do have to get going. I have an employee who went home and unexpectedly, so I need to take off now.
Yeah, it was great meeting you, Sue.
Okay.
Nice talking to you, Sue.
Okay, you too, Lynn. Take care.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, and back to what Sue said about the you know, cleaning up the Old Town area. I thought there was an email that went out. I don't remember who it was from, if it was from the city or if it was from Main Street, you know, asking people to sign up and, you know, take a block. Again, nothing, you know, there's never been a follow-up as to what areas are actually being covered by who or what areas are still needing. I just paid my handyman $100 to clean the divide in front of my 2nd Street stores because it was an absolute disgrace. And that's not inviting it's not even inviting for our locals to come down there and see weeds and stuff everywhere. And he actually said several people came over. One county employee came over and asked him how come he was doing that and was he a volunteer? And he said, no, the owner of the building is paying me to do this.
Yeah, if there's something else from city staff, you will definitely be getting some more communication from us as the plan moves forward. You can sign up for our email list if you're not on there already. It sounds like you're getting a couple of emails from us already. And then the next step is really the plan will be coming out in the next couple of months. So keep an eye out for that.
So can I throw in a different picture from a different topic?
Sure.
Okay. The Redwood Coast Music Festivals is going to have the 30th anniversary jazz festival this year. It's going to be September 29th to October 1st, which is the last Friday night market and Arts Alive. And it would be really wonderful if we could get 4th and 5th Street cleaned up from all the weeds and trash and stuff right before that time frame, and the same with some of the areas in Old Town. Our shuttle stop is going to be right there at the gazebo behind the carriage. And I believe Eureka Timber Heritage is running the speeder cars Saturday and Sunday from the Adorney Center to the Eagle House.
When I can work with you on trying to get those areas cleaned up ahead of time.
Yeah, the group that we did before that I think Alana spearheaded when we met, you know, and then divided up into all different groups and each took a block. If we could get something like that going, you know, a week or so before the festival and just get our town cleaned up so it looks a little more appealing, I think that's really important.
Yeah, we can plan a big cleanup the week before. Well, I'll make a note of that right now.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Amanda.
All right, staff, do you have anything else before I close this out?
No, thank you, Ross.
Perfect. Yeah, but the next thing you'll see is more emails, more communication about where we are in the plan and what's happening. So look out for this. And really appreciate your time and helping us understand kind of the nitty-gritty issues so that they can be addressed.